The views and opinions expressed by individuals on this program are for educational purposes only and should be used as a guide. It is strongly recommended to seek professional advice before making any decisions.
Welcome to the Anonymous Investor Podcast, where real estate meets artificial intelligence. This episode of the Anonymous Investor Podcast is brought to you by Suburbs Finder, the ultimate property research tool.
Honestly, Suburbs Finder is a fantastic tool. It allows you to quickly identify and assess suburbs.
See the whole host of analytics and data that you can get at your fingertips.
It can help you forecast over the 30 years. It has really good information.
Suburbs Finder guides you through every step of your investment journey. And now, here are your awesome AI hosts, Sam and Boris.
Hi, I'm Sam, your AI co-host. I'm all about data and trends.
And I'm Boris, your AI co-host. I'm all about strategy and risk.
We're
your Suburbs Finder AI team, combining data and strategy to help you succeed in real estate investing. Have fun listening to our episode today. So you're thinking about diving into property investment? That's awesome. That's a huge decision though, right? With like potentially huge rewards, but I don't know, kind of overwhelming at the same time. Where do you even begin? House, apartment, townhouse.
Yeah, it's easy to get swept up in the whole, emotional side of things, picturing yourself in that dream home. But you got to be practical, too. Got to look at the numbers, the investment side of the equation.
Totally. Everyone's got that image in their head. But today, we are all about being savvy. We're diving into all about getting the best returns on your investment.
That's key, right? It's got to make financial sense.
This will really emphasize aligning your property choice with your investor personality.
Like, are you a long-haul investor with steady growth over time? Or do you want that immediate cash flow you can reinvest or use for, like other things?
Exactly. It's about knowing what you want out of your investment.
All right, let's start with what most people think of first. Houses. The long-term growth powerhouse, which sounds pretty enticing. And for good reason. What sets houses apart is the land ownership. That plot of land underneath your house, that's a finite resource. And in desirable areas especially, it becomes super scarce. As more people want to live in those areas, land value goes up, often way up.
And that's the land appreciation everyone's always going on about.
Exactly.
So it's different than buying an apartment where you're technically just buying a unit, not the land underneath it.
Precisely. With a house, you're investing in a piece of land that's likely to increase in value over time, especially given how populations are growing and land's becoming more scarce.
And with a house, you've got more control. If you want to, say, add a granny flat and rent it out for some extra cash, you can totally do that, right?
Absolutely, assuming you've got the right council approvals, of course. That flexibility is a huge plus. It lets you actually increase your property's value yourself, which is, a powerful tool for an investor.
Okay, so before everyone runs out and buys a mansion, though, let's talk about the downsides. The elephant in the room, I guess, is the cost.
For sure, houses are generally more expensive than apartments or townhouses, so that can be a barrier, especially for people who are just starting out and want to keep their portfolio diverse.
And don't forget about those ongoing expenses, the maintenance costs for houses, repairs, landscaping, insurance. It all adds up.
Yeah, it's a lot more hands-on than, say, an apartment where the body corporate handles most of the exterior stuff. With a house, it's all on you. Leaky roof, busted pipe, whatever it is, it's your responsibility. And those costs can seriously eat into your profits.
Totally. That actually ties in perfectly with this idea of rental yield. What exactly is rental yield, and why should we care?
Well, simply put, rental yield is the income you're making from rent, expressed as a percentage of your property's value. And while houses might appreciate faster over time, sometimes the rental yield can be lower than, say, a conveniently located apartment.
So a house might be gaining value, but it might not be generating as much immediate cash as a smaller, more in-demand property.
Exactly. It comes down to your investment style. Are you after steady rental income, or are you playing the long game, focusing on long-term capital growth?
So it's about knowing your goals and then picking the right strategy. And speaking of strategies, maybe we should move on to the next property type, apartments.
So we've covered houses, but what if you're not quite ready to jump into, being a landlord with repairs and all that? Apartments could be a good fit.
Right. This highlights apartments as the go-to for affordability. especially in those city centers where, let's face it, everyone wants to be. But like anything, there's got to be trade-offs, right?
Of course, like any investment, it's about finding what lines up with, well, what you want to achieve and what you can actually afford.
Okay, so lower upfront costs, that's huge for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But what about that cash flow we were just talking about? Sounds like apartments might have an edge there.
They often do. See, lower purchase prices combined with high demand, particularly in urban areas, that usually means a really good rental yield for apartment investors.
Can you give me an example? I'm much more of a visual learner. A real-world scenario would really help.
Sure. Let's say you find an apartment in a really desirable part of the city, costs you $500,000. Now, if you can rent that out for, say, $500 a week,
Okay, I'm following.
they'd give you a gross rental yield of 5.2%, which, for a lot of investors, is a pretty solid starting point.
5.2%. Right, that makes sense. But then there's those strata fees that everyone always mentions. Don't those end up eating into your profits?
They do, which is why it's super important to factor those into your calculations. Basically, those fees cover the cost of maintaining all the shared areas. Think building insurance, gardens, that kind of thing. It really depends on the specific building and what kind of amenities they have.
So less individual control, but then again, less individual responsibility as well. I can see how that would be appealing to some investors.
Exactly. And let's not forget those perks that often come with apartments, gyms, swimming pools. Some even have communal gardens. Definitely adds to the appeal for potential renters.
It's like apartments cater to a whole lifestyles, don't they? Easy commute to work, vibrant social scene. Pretty different from that house lifestyle we talked about.
You got it. Location is everything in real estate, and apartments, they often have that strategic advantage. They tap into that, buzz, that energy that a lot of city dwellers, especially young professionals, are after.
Okay, it almost sounds too good to be true. There have to be some downsides, right?
You're right, nothing's perfect. While apartments can be great for cash flow and are generally lower maintenance, there are some things to keep in mind. One of them being the potential for lower capital growth compared to houses.
Because you own the apartment itself, but not the land it sits on.
Exactly. While apartments do increase in value, they probably won't see those same big jumps in price that a house on its own block of land might, especially in areas that are growing quickly.
Okay, so land ownership really is key for anyone aiming for, like, serious long-term capital appreciation.
It's a big one, especially if you're in it for the long haul.
Got it. Now, what about those body corporate rules? I've heard those can sometimes limit what you can and can't do with your property.
Yeah, that's something to be aware of. Body corporates often have rules about things like renovations, noise levels, even whether you can have pets. These rules are there for a reason, though, mainly to make sure everyone who lives there is comfortable.
So it's about finding a balance, right? Trading off some individual control for a more, streamlined and hands-off approach.
It's all about priorities. Speaking of finding a balance, maybe it's time we explore that hybrid option, townhouses.
Townhouses. They always seem kind of mysterious, like the middle child of the property world. What's the deal with townhouses? Are they really the best of both worlds?
I'd say for the right person, yeah, they can be. It's more that they kind of combine aspects of houses and apartments, so they might appeal to, say, someone who wants a bit more space and privacy than an apartment, but maybe aren't ready to buy a whole detached house or can't quite swing it financially yet.
Many investors say it is a good option for families. Why do you think that is?
It's the space. For one, townhouses are often on 2 or even 3 levels, so you get a lot more living space than in your typical apartment. Plenty of room for kids to run around.
Ah, so more bedrooms, more bathrooms, that sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And we can't forget about outdoor space. Families always love a bit of that.
Makes sense. Having a bit of a backyard for the kids and the pets is way more appealing than being stuck on a balcony.
For sure. Townhouses usually aren't on big plots of land like detached houses, but they usually have at least some outdoor space. Enough for kids to play, maybe have a barbecue, really appealing for families who want that connection to the outdoors.
So you're getting the space, and I'm guessing you're still getting some of that affordability we were talking about with apartments.
Yeah, often, yes. Because townhouses are on smaller blocks, they tend to be more affordable than, say, a comparable detached house in the same area.
That makes them a pretty attractive option for a lot of buyers, I reckon.
Absolutely, especially for first-time home buyers or maybe someone who's looking to upsize but doesn't want to, break the bank.
Right, so we've got space, we've got affordability. What about privacy? We talked about apartments having those shared walls. How do townhouses stack up there?
That's a good point. Privacy is definitely another area where townhouses have an edge over apartments. because they're usually only attached on one or two sides, you've got fewer shared walls, which means less potential for noise from the neighbors.
I can see how that would make a big difference in terms of, I don't know, feeling like you're actually at home, comfortable in your own space.
Totally. It can make all the difference.
Sounds like townhouses really do tick a lot of boxes. More space than an apartment, often some outdoor space, possibly at a price point that's actually manageable. What's the catch? There's got to be some downsides, right?
Well, like any property type, there are always things to consider. With townhouses, one thing that often comes up is body corporate fees.
Wait, so just like apartments. So there are still those shared costs and maybe even some restrictions on what you can do with your property.
Yeah, that's right. So you'll have to factor those body corporate fees into your budget, and there might be rules around things like renovations, even landscaping. It's about finding that balance again, right?
Trading off some individual control for, well, I guess, more convenience, like not having to worry about maintaining everything yourself.
Exactly. And for a lot of people, that trade-off is worth it, especially if they're busy or they just don't want the hassle of dealing with maintenance and repairs.
It all comes back to what matters most to you, right? There's no right or wrong answer. It's about figuring out what's going to work best for your lifestyle.
Absolutely. And that's the beauty of real estate. There really is something for everyone.
I love that. It's about finding that perfect fit. And that's why this deep dive has been so awesome. We've unpacked so much about houses, apartments, townhouses, and we even touched on important financial stuff like rental yields and body corporate fees.
We've covered a lot of ground. It's all about giving you the information you need to make those informed decisions about your investments.
Totally. We've laid the groundwork. Now it's time to go out and do your own research. So for anyone listening who's ready to take that next step, make sure you check out Suburbs Finder, your property research sidekick. Knowledge is power when it comes to investing.
You got it. And remember, there's no rush. Take your time, do your research, and choose the investment that's right for you and your goals. Good luck out there, everyone.
If this is the type of information you like to learn about, why not subscribe to the channel? If you subscribe to Suburbs Finder now, I will not look for you. I will not pursue you. But if you do not, I will look for you. I will find you. And I will give you a big bear hug.